Okay, welcome back. It's good to see you again. We're going to use the sewing machine today and we're going to show you how to do some basic seams. Now, sewing seams is what we've got the sewing machine all for here. Before Singer came out with their mass-produced sewing machines, they would use a needle and thread and hand stitch up. But the sewing machine's just awesome for being able to do that. Essentially, if you're doing a seam, you're wanting to join two pieces of material together. So I've got two pieces of material here and I'm just going to put them together so that their edges are right on top of each other. See where the needle is going out there, up and down? That's exactly the point at which the row of stitches will come. Put your needle down first and you'll know exactly where you're going to stitch. Put down your presser foot, wherever it's there or here, and then you'll stitch. I've put my foot on the control there and I've just stitched. There's the row of stitches that you can see. Now it's just started here and finished there. Now one thing about when you've just stitched it like that, and I haven't gone backwards and forwards, cut your thread nice and close to the end. But there's a problem with that because as soon as you put pressure on it, it begins to fall apart. And if you wore something that you had made like that, it would actually begin to fall apart on you and you'd be most frustrated. How do we stop that? Well, that's really easy to fix. Okay, so I have another piece of thread material here and I'm going to put it in and stitch it again, and I'm going to show you how we can stop that thread coming back. So do 3 or 4 stitches forward, 1, 2, 3, 4, press the reverse button and you'll see it goes backwards. Then go forward, finish your row of stitching then. When you get to the end, press your reverse button, go back 3 or 4 stitches, and come forward again. Make sure your needle is on the up position when you pull your fabric out. Now this time, I can pull that as hard as I like and nothing comes apart. And there you have ended it off with a nice reverse at the beginning end. Try and do that at the beginning and end of each row that you stitch, that you want to be nice and secure. So here you are, you have a seam. It's there and you have your 2 pieces of material. But there's one problem with this. This is what happens. The fabric begins to fall to pieces. If you put this through the washing machine, these pieces of thread would gradually fall out and you'd get lots and lots of thread. Now there's some very simple remedies for that problem. First of all, I'm going to show you the very old-fashioned ways of dealing with this. This is a different pair of scissors. If you'll notice on the edge there, it's got a zigzag pattern. These are called pinking scissors, and they are great because you can just use your scissors to cut the edge of your fabric and it leaves it with a zigzag pattern. Okay, now I've ironed that seam open and you can see the zigzag pattern on the edge there. That doesn't stop the fraying forever, but it will reduce it quite a lot and can be quite effective on something that you need to have nice and flat and you won't get a lot of wear. That's a really easy old way of doing it. Okay. I've done here 3 seams because I want to show you 3 ways of stitching across to stop these edges from fraying. If your sewing machine doesn't have a zigzag function, and some older ones don't, this is how you can do it without. Just simply fold over the edge of your fabric once. Let me show you then. Fold it over once and do a row of stitching down there. Now I didn't actually go backwards and forwards when I did that seam. You don't need to on this because there's no stress on that seam. Now you can see there as I've got it folded, we've folded it over, put a row of stitching on there, and that will hold that off and it won't fray. Those that are bright amongst you will notice that I've actually used white thread on green fabric. Maybe you've asked why. It's a good question because really try and use a thread that matches your fabric so you can't see your stitching. But on this I actually want you to see the stitching. I want you to be able to see where I stitch, so I've used that white to let it show. So there you are, you can just fold it over and stitch it. That works well. The second way that you can do on almost all machines these days have a zigzag function. Just choose your zigzag. This has already got settings in it and it is generally okay, the settings that are there, but you might like to change them to play around. This time we're actually going to stitch right on the edge of the fabric so that the needle will go through the fabric there then the needle will come on the side of the fabric. So we're actually covering the edge of the fabric seam there. So put it in and stitch it down. Now when you look at that, you can see the needle is actually off the side of the fabric there. That allows it to encase the edge of the fabric. Now there you can see the zigzag finish there, and it's covered the edge of the fabric, and that will be nice and secure. That will never fray. Right, the third form of edging for a seam that you can do here is what's called 3-step zigzag. The machine needle actually stitches 1, 2, 3 across, 1, 2, 3 back, and or serpentine it's sometimes called. And so set your machine up to do that, and then just stitch it over the edge of the fabric again like you did on the zigzag. Now you can see the effect of the 3-step zigzag. It's like woven, stitch upon stitch, 3 across this way, stitch across, and 3 back this way. This actually makes a flatter seam, and if anything it's even more secure. So you can see on here I have done 3 ways of edging the seam and having folded them, ironed them flat like that, as well as the pinking. This makes a nice flat seam that doesn't show on the other side.